Live.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Elektra Porza, the Language of Consciousness Institute. And if you're a longtime listener to Create a World, you know that a group of us got together, led by Tantra, to create an opportunity to talk with people who are creating new worlds, people who are following their guidance, their love, their passion. And we love to talk to people who are active in their passion. So today we're talking to a friend of mine, Yvonne, who lives in Turkey. And we had to re-record the previously recorded, and it actually was April 11th. And what we'll do is play the recording. And then I'll give you some additional information that's happened since April 11th. Okay, let's go. Are we on YouTube? Yes, we are. Okay. Okay, here we go. Wow, welcome. This is another great time to have a conversation with you. You have intrigued me, YB, because you have chosen to spend your life based on your attraction to your land. At least that's kind of what I got from you. When did this start, and what is this romance with these different land bases that you have?
I was thinking about it, Elektra. It's really interesting because actually I think the first time I noticed it, probably long before this, but I was living in Israel in a kibbutz, and to go to the orchards because I was working in the orchards. And I just thought, I was walking through that land up in the Upper Galilee on the Syrian border, and walking down, I thought, oh my God, this is just beyond precious. I really got the feel for that area of the world, which is where I'm living now, more or less. And I think that was the consciousness that came in at that time, consciously. I don't remember it much in England, although my mother was very much into the land, but I don't recall really where I felt that until that moment.
So after Israel, how long did you live there?
Off and on 5 years.
And then what drew you? What land drew you? And what happens when you are drawn to a piece of land or a country? Or
actually, the place I was not drawn to at all was Colorado, was America. Because I married an American. Well, I wasn't married then. I met him on the kibbutz, and I went by default to Colorado in '74 because we were having the strikes in the coal strikes, and there was no heating, and we were working by candlelight. I said, "What am I doing here? I could go to Colorado." So that's where I went, and I really loved Colorado. Actually, I had no clue about the States really, because if I think about it, I mean, I hadn't met Americans, although I traveled in Europe. I'd never been to the States, and that's where I started to meet Americans on the kibbutz in Israel.
Isn't that something?
Drew me in.
We drew you in, and then you went back. So you have been in Turkey, for over 20 years?
23 years, it'll be in September, yes.
My God. Okay. So what is it about the land of Turkey that drew you?
The story with Turkey was actually on that same trip when I was 20. No, that was the next trip. We were supposed to go to Greece. So we were taking a boat because I was living in England. We were taking a boat. This was my second trip back to Israel on the kibbutz. And the boat was supposed to stop in Greece, but there was a coup. Oh. So my life follows coups. And then we went to Ephesus. southwest corner into the site of Ephesus. And I said, I have to come back. And it was so a complete village in those days. It was just a different, I'd never been in such a situation or in that kind of environment as consciously.
What do you mean it was a village?
It was absolutely undeveloped. It was completely not touristed at all in the 70s, this was 1973. And it was just like magic. And we were in the Aegean we were on the Aegean Sea at that point. Well, I didn't know the Mediterranean here at that point. So that's what pulled me in and we only were there for a day, 2 days. Got back on the boat and carried on to Israel. And I'd been wanting to come back from 73, and I didn't come back here until 97.
Wow.
To Turkey, yeah. Took me that long.
So what is it about that land that attracts you and made you stay there for over 20 years?
In Turkey? The journey that got me here is I didn't know anything about Antalya. I said to a friend, I want to go to Turkey. And she said, I'll go with you. And we went to Istanbul. This is the place. I thought, oh, Istanbul. And it was March 97. And it started to snow. I mean, snow was up to here.
Oh my God.
Wild. Yeah. And who knew that the Istanbul was in the Siberian corridor? I certainly didn't. A lot of
Not
snow.
me either.
Nope. It was freezing cold. So what we did, we went to a what do you call it? Travel agency. They existed in those days. And we said we wanted to go to Kash. I opened the travel book, and it was Kash. And they said, no, it's closed. But go to Antalya. Okay, we went to Antalya. But what we did is we went by bus to Cappadocia, which is the land of the fairy chimneys. It's all volcanic, erupted. Yeah. And we went there, and then we came down by bus to Antalya, and we got here like at 3:00 in the morning. I couldn't see anything. It was still very small here at that point. And in the morning, I said to the person in the pension, I said, "Where's the sea?" And he said, "Down the street." And actually, as I was walking towards the sea, which I didn't know what it was, or any of the mountains or anything, I felt like I was in Israel. It was like, oh, I'm walking down this street. This is familiar. It feels like I've been here and without the conflict. That's what I thought in my mind's ramblings or whatever it was doing. And then I got through to the park where I go all the time, and there were the mountains, the Taurus Mountains. I said, I've come home. And that was it.
That's what I was wondering, the sense of home, that this is, yeah.
Yeah.
When I've traveled to, like, I went to Peru, and I just realized that I've lived there before. And I found several places felt like, yeah, this is home. I've been here before in another lifetime. Is that your sense of why you stay there?
I'm not sure if I've been here before. It's a familiar territory or a familiar landscape, but I think there are other things at play. What also happened was the when I went to Conyers, where Mevlana, where Rumi is buried. And then another episode or another opening happened. And I said, am I supposed to be here? And I got an answer and said, yes. So that's when I came here. I moved here in 2000. But I think there's so many things at play. It's kind of the sacred, the land of the sacred, and the land of the old, and the land of so many stories, and the land of much. Let's say that. It's very expansive in that way for me. And a lot of people feel that here. They absolutely feel it when they come on the land. There's something about Turkey.
You want to expand on that? What do you mean? Something like
it's something Turkey? About this. There's something here. I don't know how I can explain it. It's like there's something that it is presencing here. That it just occupies. I think, an embracement of home and also the sacred. There's so much that happened here. But for instance, the central area, Anatolia, is all dry. I mean, it's more deserty. And we've got the Mediterranean, the Aegean, and all that on the Aegean coast. And then, of course, you go east, and we're on the border of Syria, Iran, and many, many other places. So it's that kind of gathering place. And maybe the Ottoman Empire was a huge empire.
Now, Anatolia is where you live now, right?
I live in Antalya, and the central area of Turkey is Anatolia. But the other part is, Turkey. And they've wanted to go back to their old name now. I just heard. So Turkey now wants to be called Turkey, which is the old pre-World War I name, which means turquoise, actually.
Turquoise?
Yeah, it's really nice.
So it's Turkiya?
Turkey, Turkiye.
IYE.
That's the Turkish name. And I think post-World War I, I'm not sure the history, that's when the name Turkey came.
Okay, well, a lot of things changed at that point. So in your being in this land, what do you think is the relationship, or why are you there? What is the larger relationship between you and that land?
One piece I didn't know about, or one major piece that came I was aware of when I moved into this apartment in 2007. There's a road here, which wasn't very busy then, but it is now. And the mountains surround, I'm telling you. It's over there. And
over there,
there was
okay.
Over there it is. It's behind me. And there's a portal that something was coming through there. And I didn't know what it was. So I took no notice of, I was aware there was a stream coming through here. And I got an email from Victoria. Oh my God, it's got Emanation of Presence, who worked with Lucia Rene.
Oh, okay.
And she sent information about the Nilotic. And I said, oh my goodness, I think I'm on the Nilotic. I had no idea. And then I started doing the coordinates, and it goes right through Antalya. And that again awakened something that I had an inkling, but no name.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like 2017. And that's when we started I hooked up with Anne-Marie, who is in Ireland, and we started working on it together. I didn't know her that well, but it was just something that we moved together with to unpack this area.
So what did you learn?
And actually, I got a map dowser. I discussed with a lot of people about whether this was really the Nilotic, which is supposed to be the central nervous system of the Earth.
Oh.
And the map dowser, it's very powerful. The prime meridian, and the map dowser in England dowsed it for me. And he said, yes. And actually, it goes past your house, and actually, it probably goes through Konya. So it also goes through where Rumi is buried, Mevlana.
Wow.
Yeah, north-south. So it runs along the Nile, north-south.
North-south, and comes up. So it's the central nervous system of the Earth?
Yes. Goes through South Africa, to Vanuatu, part where the sacred white lions are located or protected. And and goes around the Earth. It goes north along the Nile and up through Turkey, around.
I get this picture of you. It's kind of silly because it's you putting your finger into it from your apartment.
Well, I can see it right now. Yes, it's very close.
So what were you doing, or what do you think your function was in doing that? I mean,
opening it up or going. What do you mean? I'm not quite.
Well, one of the things I know about the synchronic lines, which are not the same, but the synchronic lines are ones that go around the Earth and then north and south, east and west, and they come out at the end of the Earth, and so they are at connections actually to other planets. And the Damanhurians worked with them and actually said they needed to be cleaned up. In other words, that outside forces had essentially put garbage into them and to impact the world. And I'm just wondering if you noted, if you kind of got a sense of the function you were playing. It was not in my world, there was no, it was like you were guided to be at that apartment if the work that you were to do was with that line.
Right.
And I was just wondering what your sense was of the work, because you've got people that are supported you and were doing research and stuff, but you're the one who was physically there.
I sense when we dug up more and more, and you know, it's the river of stars and the river of gold, and the gold had been plundered eons ago. So now as we noticed that we started understanding of kind of realizing what its function was or who it was and what it was bringing, then the river started to actually meridian started to flow more. It became more abundant in our sense. The gold started to flow again.
And did you notice?
That's probably part of it.
Okay. So your function really was to open it up and help it return to its full function.
Yes. Yeah.
Did one of the things Damanhurians always talk about is evidence of something when they've done like something magic. Then they look for the evidence. What evidence did you see or have you seen that would lead you to say, yes, it is, the gold is flowing. This line is more active. I have,
it's more intuition than
okay.
Yeah, it's more an intuitive thing. I mean, the traffic is pretty intense here, and I know that brings information back and forth. It's flowing like this. Okay. That's the information. But the gold, it was just an intuitive. Once we started really opening it up, it started to flow. And this was like, I think it was like 2 or 3 years worth of research that we did in Ireland and.
Well, thank you very much for that. Does that line go all the way up into England and then north to, where does it go?
It goes north through Finland. And okay. I can't find a map. I've just got another map from Victoria, who just sent me another map. I have to look, and she's got the circle of where it goes. I couldn't find my map again where it circles. Uganda, I think, but that's south. But yes.
Okay.
So it goes Finland north.
If it's the nervous system of the earth.
Prime meridian of the earth, spine.
It's the prime meridian. The spine. Okay.
Yes.
It's very interesting. So it's based on the physicality of the earth because if it's the spine of the earth. A lot of different places, like, because I've gone to South America a lot, they talk about the different parts of that country being different chakras, that the chakras of the earth are there. Is this strictly a prime meridian physicalness and returning it to its flow? Is there another purpose or another function?
I don't know, actually, to be honest.
Yeah. See, that's what I find fascinating is to say, if this is the prime meridian of the earth, and this almost brings it up to present day, and there's this tremendous amount of flow going on, but there's also a lot of upset going on in Turkey right now. So how does that, why don't we talk a little bit about what's happening in that country now? Because we all know there was the earthquake last month, and the movement of humans through these energetic planes has to have an impact. And what's happening, and two, what's the impact?
what's happening, I've been back like 4 weeks. So I got here about, the earthquake was I was sitting with you, February 6th. And I returned here March, so about 4 weeks later, March 5th. Turkey always feels very calm to me, but there was something going on. And I'm talking about in the energetic field.
Okay.
And I didn't actually feel the impact immediately because it's so calm. And I arrived on a Sunday, which is always a calmer day. But then I started, and I've talked to my friends, and they haven't sat with people who have experienced it, but I've sat with, by just happening to just talk to people who were in it, and young people. I mean, just 2 the other day or 2 weeks ago. And first of all, the death is far higher than they're saying. I think they think it's about 1 million people die, if not more.
That would be my guess, just on the density of where the earthquake took place. I thought there's just no way.
No,
that you don't have
11 cities, and I looked at the map of the vibrational circle of where it hit. It's about a third of the country.
Oh my God.
Turkey's about 2,000 miles wide. It's not deep north to south, but it's wide. So if you figure out with the United States, 3,000 miles, that's 1,000 miles of impact in the United States. And here it was.
See, that would wipe out the East Coast. We're 5,000 miles across.
Yeah. Oh, you're 5? I thought it was 3.
I don't know.
Anyway, whatever. I think it's 3. So it's when you think about 1,000 miles in the United States as a relative.
So 1,000 miles. Wow.
Well, with here, it was like maybe 750 miles. But the density of the way the cities are built, as this one is now, wasn't before. I think well over 1,000. Millions displaced. Millions. There's no housing. Housing is skyrocketed. Whole families. Like one stream of the family has been wiped out. Like I was sitting with a young woman who just got back to university, she's 20, in Hatay, which is one of the places that got hit 2 times. And she said she was alone in the dorm. She spoke English. She was alone in the dorm, and it just started. And her father drove from here to go get her. And her uncle's family is completely gone. That family.
Oh no.
The whole line, the parents, the cousins, and they haven't told they told the grandmother, but they didn't tell the grandfather. They didn't tell him yet. So that's what I think what's happened, as I was listening to the news a lot, which was TRT live from Turkey in English, and that's what was happening. Like wherever the place that collapsed had whole families in them. So you got generations of people.
Yeah,
and some living home. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, what I noticed was it's the way they house together in the same building is different than the U.S. The U.S. doesn't do that. But the fact that they all moved to the same building, it's sort of like when immigrants came to the United States, if they said, well, all the Germans moved to this area and the Swedes moved to this area. And it's, it's the same thing with the Vietnamese and then everything here. So, but in that area, I noticed they kept saying, talking about relatives in the same building.
Yeah.
So they're losing whole family lines are losing.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. And it's a huge impact. I don't feel it so much here, but last week I really felt it. I felt paralyzed myself from what I'm having to go with, which is part of the impact affecting me. Never mind, and also the grief. The grief.
The grief's got to be a huge field.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, how do you, energetically grieve if it just stayed in the town, but then the people move and the grief comes with it.
Yeah.
And then it seeps, and then it's a pervasive energy that really aches the heart of everybody.
Yeah.
So how is that? Now your town is how far away from where all that happened?
About 550 miles, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Quite a ways away.
So
Because that's the east. It's the Syria-Iran area, borders.
mhm.
So it's Hatay, Gaziantep, Marash, all that area there.
What are the people who have come that you've been having a chance to? What did they say about what's happening on the east?
I've only there was one woman came in the same place, and I didn't talk to her. The young woman who I was talking to, whose uncle, whole family died. She said, there was another woman who just walked in here, and a lot of them are living in hotels, and the government is paying, but now the hotel, because the season's coming, they're asking them to leave. But the woman that came in, she was telling us she lost her sister. Sister was pregnant, the whole family. She's okay, but the family. So it's impacting people, and as they move, they have nowhere to live. They have nowhere to live, and they're getting a certain amount from the government, which doesn't, the rents are so high now, they can't even pay. And a lot of them are in tents and containers, those kind of wooden boxes. That's what they're in the earthquake areas. They have windows. It's like a tiny house, wooden, but in the summer.
So what is your sense of how this, because this is a great trauma, the country's having to try and financially support people until they get settled, but it creates like a vortex of agitation. I mean, a soup of agitation and grief and fear. And so how do you see that impacting the country, and even as far away as where you are?
I haven't people, I've noticed it with myself, but I haven't noticed it with other people. Depends how directly affected they are. So some people have lost, like one of my friends, I haven't seen her yet. She had like 18 members of her family come and live with them in a small flat. I don't know what the update is. So they're housing a lot of the family members who are displaced.
So the family members come here, travel 500 miles to say, Aunt so-and-so lives here, we'll just have to live with her. And Aunt so-and-so says there's nothing else I can do except take them in because this is family. But that creates a whole other issue.
And that's what goes on in Turkey. People would take everybody in because that's what they do. That the whole sense of family and the whole, as a system, not only a system, but as an institution, it's like you're holding the place of the family. The family is very important here. Well, whoever you are, you take people in. They help each other. People are very helpful here.
So is that part of why you think they're still very calm, is that they know that they will always take care of their own?
I know, they're also very calm because I've never witnessed so much trauma since I've been here. I've really been with it. In my time here, coups, bombings, all of these things. They're the creators of not the creators. They are the receivers of this kind of extreme imbalances, let's say. There's a lot going on. There was a lot going on in Turkey while I've been here in 23 years.
So what is different now? I know that the earthquake created a great difference, but there seems to be almost my sense is a soup is swirling that's different. And is that true, or is that just
the soup that's swirling that's different?
I'm just wondering what's going on in the country now that would tell you that things are different. Is it just the earthquake, or is there something else?
I think that I think they're numbed out. The next generation, like the 20-year-olds, almost Gezi. I mean, in May of the elections, the presidential. And in May is the 10-year anniversary of Gezi uprising, which was the uprising. Well, that goes together. I mean, in some ways, they were kids when that happened. But I don't know if there's kind of a dulling down of they just feel beaten. I can't say that. They're pretty strong and resilient people as a general population. It's part of the collapse. I mean, that's what it feels like. It's actually, it's one of the places that's going through a major collapse. Triggered by the earthquake, triggered by loss of life, triggered by homelessness, triggered by nowhere to live for a lot of people here. I'm not the only one. Triggered by the war in Russia and Ukraine. I mean, huge amount of migration here. It's like a massive migration that coming through Turkey, and that Turkey's not taking, not doing, what do you call it? Residence permits for certain populations, and could include myself. They just can't do it anymore. They have a Syrian migration. 3 or 4 million Syrians are in Turkey. That was from years ago. There has been an Iranian, that was a migration as well. That was later. So there's they host a lot of the generosity of hosting so many people. They're just saying, we can't do this anymore right now.
That's interesting. So their culture is one where we will take care of you.
Yes, it's a hospitality culture. You are here, we'll be there.
And then they're finding that their resources are limited, particularly because of the earthquake, where millions of people are displaced and there's nowhere to go.
Nope.
And it fights with that. One of the core things we keep talking about where humanity has to go is more of this community. We will take care of you. We are one. And so it sounds like Turkey has that as its basic who we are, which would say, okay, that's a culture that we want to move towards. And at the same time, they have reached the proverbial limit of what they can handle.
Yeah. And
at some point they have to say, we are one, and we cannot take care of anymore.
No.
We can't.
And that's the fallout. I mean, the fallout that's affecting those of us everyone, and all those of us who live here as a foreign community, so to speak.
So is the foreign community leaving, or
yes,
encouraged
some people
to leave?
Yes, we'll have to see. Like a lot of us I will have my appointment, for instance, May 2nd, and might not be able to stay anymore. And now that I've heard, I don't know if that's rumored, that they're not giving any more Russian immigrants residence permits. They've stopped it.
So there'll
be other movements that people can't buy unless you own property. But that again, now they're going to say that if there's a new person coming in, a new president, they will say possibly. I don't know that they can't. Foreigners cannot buy land. This is always like this in Turkey. It goes with and then it switches. It never stays still. So they might say tomorrow you can't be here. Oh no, we've changed our mind. And and that's where I learned to navigate through lines. There's never been this is a place that really knows how to do through lines because it moves. And it was very hard when I moved from the States, but this is like, okay, so tomorrow, okay, but you might change your mind. Which is what we're starting to go through. My experience of being in the States just now is that's what we're starting to go through, which we are not familiar with, really, yet. It's a stagnant, it's a meta point, but it's moving. It's moving all the time here, constantly. I mean, when I got here, nobody was ever on time. I couldn't believe it. I mean, They say they're coming to, it's not so bad now. We're coming at 3, or we might come tomorrow and fix your hose. Oh no, we might show up. That's changed quite a bit. It's mañana. Mañana, mañana.
Mañana, just
That's
transfer.
kind of as it's made. Yes, put it off. But it's been a blessing and a curse. It's been a blessing that it's a way that people navigate, and they're nomads. Basically, it was a nomadic people.
So
And
they keep the nomadic sense.
They were building their yurts there, and there still 100 people still walking the mountains. Not many left of the Yorick tribe who still walk the mountains in the Taurus Mountains. It's from the ancient culture.
Which is so different for the United States. We're just not that old. And so we don't have impacted by that. And I keep thinking of the your prime meridian and how that, the fact that you got it awake helps this country now deal with all that they have to deal with in trying to take care of their own, but also take care of others who are in pain or hurt.
And there are other people in the group who live in South Africa, also worked on the Nilotic.
Okay.
Before I knew about it, but I didn't know that person at that point. So there's in the field of Tantra art. So yeah. It's like this. I found a difference. Yeah, like I have this space or whatever. I'm a steward or guardian or whatever. I don't know. And then I've met a woman I know in Aya. She's in Finland, so she's there up in the north. So there's kind of, we've all connected.
I wonder if the fact that there are people both in the. It's sort of like the highest point, the most northern point, southern point, and in the middle. And in that, you can work. Do you work together to create flow? I don't know. What do you do because you're placed where you are? There must be very specific work that is impacting that prime meridian, and particularly, like you're at the midpoint. With all that flux and pressure, I was wondering what was the impact. Do you have a sense of it? Or just that that's one of the things that you have to deal with in doing the work on the prime meridian?
I'm wondering if it's a stability point now. I haven't looked at it.
It would be interesting be interesting to see, because you could see that the Finland and the South Africa points could hold it, and you were kind of this balance point. Now you're thinking of leaving Turkey, right?
Yes.
Okay. What have you placed anything energetically in place for this?
No, I'm looking at possibly Spain, because my daughter's there. Also, I've been pulled to Spain longer than any other country. I keep going there and I can never find why I'm there. So I don't know. It's like, here. I can work with Turkey wherever I am. I can work with this line.
Because you're already established a relationship.
Yes, yeah. I've been here long, and I've been sitting on this. Literally in this apartment since 2007, so that's 15 years.
Yeah. So you've really established a relationship with the line, so you can.
Yes. Okay. So that's what I don't know if it'll happen, but the trajectory is pulling me in that direction. Who knows?
It really is. Who knows? It's very.
Who knows? I don't know.
We're dealing with these energies and forces that are of the earth and of the universe, and we're just minor players. But except we may not be. It's sort of like, why did you place it there? Why did you get that apartment? It's always interesting to look at those things and say, I'm the kid who put my finger in the dike.
Yeah.
And and if that's the only function, you go like, well, you're not much. because, but you go like, well, I call it's not programming, but it's being willing to say, how can I serve in the larger movement of humanity and the earth moving to the next recursion? And sometimes that's what looks like a small role, but if that role wasn't played, who could say what would have happened for that land and for the people of that land? Because if you can keep a flow moving through any body of water, you don't have stagnation. You have a process of cleansing. You have a process of renewal. And so that was your function, was to make sure that that area could do its work. Because without the flow, they probably couldn't do what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, I never thought about it. Yes.
So you just little pat on the back.
Back a little back. It's interesting. I mean, it's interesting that it all started consciously when I was 20. I was pulled here. But who knows why? The reason was. And possibly from way many lifetimes, who knows? But and placed here because I'm telling you, I just looked at the I just looked at the map and actually, not going to Kush, which is not far away, and ending up here in this huge bay, which I didn't realize was so big. My friends came from there, from Colorado, and I was living in the Bay Area, and they said the bay is huge. I said, what? I said it's much bigger than the San Francisco Bay. I had no perception of it at all. No perception. It is huge. It's big, and it's the Taurus Mountains have their own thread right down all the way around and down the coast. And the stem cells. That's another piece that's not my job, but my dear friend Caroline Lunscher did a lot of work. It's about 80 kilometers down the coast, southwest. And she's actually coming back end of April. And we will do some more. I mean, whatever she has to do. She's been at work with this for about 5 or 6 years. And I don't know enough about it, but there's I did do a few workshops with her. But it's interesting. The primordial stem cell of the earth is in Chirala.
Primordial stem cell? So it's
stem cell of the earth.
Wow.
Is in Chirala, Ciralli. And that's connected to Chimera, which is the eternal flame. That's her, that's her work, hers to do. But that's also interesting that the prime meridian and the prime, that's for the stem cells. There's one.
It does. I mean, all of a sudden I have this feeling about Turkey that I never quite had before. That they always, if you go back to the Bible, they always talk about, everything arising in that area.
Yes.
And I sort of thought it was, kind of just poetic language. It doesn't sound like it.
It's not. It's really a force. Have you ever been to this area of the world?
No,
It's really something different. I mean, what's the whole Middle East is I really love the Middle East, as chaotic and as eruptive as it is. It's fascinating, really. It's it's very powerful. I really don't have words for it. It's so different for me. I mean, I could maybe walk in another land and feel it. I haven't felt it, but in the Middle East, actually, for that impact. That heart, and Turkey's very heart-based. The language comes from the heart, and it's very heart-centered. Oh. So everything is about how you're feeling and how's the other person feeling. My Turkish is not good enough, but I know that it's just the tenses are very different. So I was out with a friend yesterday, and I haven't been with any of my Turkish friends yet, but it was like this is a different way of speaking. It's very quiet. It's very calm and very quiet, and they listen. It's just a really interesting. And we were talking about what happened, but again, it's the impact of the land and the pull of the land, which also crosses the St. Michael's that we discovered we didn't know. And it's not magical. It's like when I was going to Tantra a lot, like last year. It's like the holy is rising. That's what I'm feeling.
Oh,
The holy is rising again in these areas in the world. And I ran into it like last year with the sacred masculine. And yeah, it's like the Old Testament in some ways. And I'm
well,
not, well, it's not my knowledge, but I can feel it. It's just what, yeah, really, when you think about the parting of the Red Sea, which is not here, and the eruption and the land erupting and separating. I mean, the separation, what is it, a mile wide, 2 miles, 3 miles wide, the cracks in the earth in the east side of Turkey?
really?
Huge, huge.
Wow.
There's been drones. It's so wide, it's separated. They were showing a family, they're completely destroyed, upset. Their olive trees are on the other side. Their work is on the other side. And the noise when it happened, the noise and the lights, the sound, and the cracks and the like fire coming out. It was just very alive. It was very loud and freaked them out. And they've been separated from their land. They're on one side, and it's a canyon. It's like a canyon form.
Like 200 feet wide or what?
I think it's a mile. I'm not sure. It's pretty wide. I might be completely wrong. I need to go check my facts. But I think
it's a fascinating topic to look at a land that carries the prime meridian, that carries the primordial stem cells, that has been energetically opened up. And then these eruptions come. That means that whatever energy was deeper in the earth came out. But into these people who, again, are then carrying the process of the transition in their way they have to live. And if they have this heart-based center community focused sense of being, there probably are the best ones to carry the new energy because they carry it that way. Because if you're taking care of people and you're looking at relationships and you listen well, which you say they do, they're probably the best because it's an eruptive energy that says things are changing, things are different. It will not be the same. But these people say, we will take care of our own and we'll make sure that others are taken care of too.
Yes, the general theme. I mean, the general view of yes, definitely. How it plays out, I don't know, but how it's playing out. But that's the essence of Turkey, the true essence of what presencing here.
It almost feels like a gift. Like if you want to pick the country that would best be able to handle this kind of eruptive energy, it would be this country.
Yes, I would imagine so.
And of course, anybody in Turkey goes like, well, thanks a lot. Could we have picked another place for this? But it sounds like from what you say about who they are as a people, how they handle the stranger, how they handle the needy, and that if there's a flow in the prime meridian that is stronger, it would stir things up. If the primordial cells, that's what primordial cells do. They recreate. If they're a stem cell, they are there to create something new, where life wasn't. And you go like, well, it is it's like the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
it may not look like what we had in our mind as a Garden of Eden, but if you look at the major elements that you have talked about, you go, this is the place where it could happen. I don't know if it could happen anywhere else without the primordial stem cells there to help them form something new. But they're also basic culture that helps them accept that which is and that which is coming in a way that probably might not happen elsewhere in the world.
Yes. And it's so central. I mean, it's so, yeah, it's so, the way, geographically, the way it's located in the center of something, as you said.
How exciting. I know you're going to leave the area, but we're going to talk to you again.
I'm still here. I mean, I'll be here for as long as I can be. I'll just see how this year goes.
Well, it all goes on whether or not they want your apartment.
So giving me the yeah. Also, where do I need to be as well? But at the moment, I'm here.
So you're the only next step is where you to be would be is if you have to leave Turkey that you go to Spain.
I think it's more than that. I've been thinking about it, sensing it for a while now that I need to be somewhere else. And
okay.
So something is closing down, but it always pulls me back. It doesn't let me go. But there's reasons, and maybe it's a complete cycle now. I don't know, actually.
Well, the story has to always be completed.
Mm-hmm.
And you're waiting for your sense that the story's completed.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe just being here and holding it for a while. I'll see.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having this conversation with me. And we'll probably ask you back for an update.
Sounds good.
Okay. Take good care.
Okay, Elektra, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, I enjoyed the conversation the second time around as well. One of the things that struck me when I talked to Yvonne was how rich that country was and that piece of land. And I think some of the stories of the Middle East can be, waved away either from historical meanings or from all the trouble we see them have now. And in the conversation with Yvonne, I really came to realize that country holds a primordial energy and that it's playing a pivotal role. And it doesn't have anything to do with the politics. It has to do with the natural forces of the earth. And we don't know what caused, why, were there not cracks that energy could have come through versus exploding, a mile wide. But I have a great admiration for that country now that I didn't have before, and its people, and in how they are there to handle whatever is rising. And the good news is that Yvonne did get her residency permit, and so she is staying in the country for now. And we plan to talk with her in September to see kind of the update of how the country is doing and how she's doing, because she's going to do more work with the gal with the primordial stem cells. And for those of us who don't live in an area that carries quite that ancient knowledge or that type of ancient knowledge, it'll be fascinating to hear. I know that I've been called to different lands in my lifetime, lands that felt like home when I was there. I haven't ever been called to live long term in them, like I was called Hawaii, and I lived there a couple of years. And I have visited lands that felt like home when I visited them. So it's quite a different thing to choose to not only live in a land to live long term in a land that is calling you and to commit yourself to that work. And if you're one of those people who do that, I'd love to hear from you. Just contact me via Creator World or at Elektra at loc-institute.com, because one of the things that I know, I'm reading a book called Sand Talk, and what he talks about is how the indigenous people have relationship with the land. And what we know about Western society is that a lot of the people, we have lost that relationship with the land. And that's why it fascinated me to talk with Yvonne, to see that she followed that path of relationship with the land. And we all in some way need to reclaim our relationship with the land, whether it's the land that you live near now, so you get to know it better, or the land of your birth and your people. Yeah, there's a shift happening now in the world. New energies coming in or arising, a time for us to be more in unity with the land and nature and each other. And that doesn't mean unity never, ever means everybody's the same. It simply means that there's space for everyone. And that which goes against life is a very small portion of it. That which grants life and makes us whole is the larger portion. That's what we're aiming for. So if you have a relationship with the land, I'd love to hear and talk to you about it. And if you don't, we'd also like to talk about it. What does that mean to have or have not a relationship with the land? Thank you so much for visiting with us today. And we'll see you.